Think about the phrases we use when we describe human progress. We talk about shattering the glass ceiling. We talk about breaking the sound barrier. We celebrate the 4-minute mile or the final frontier. As human beings, we seem to have this restless, God-given hunger to strive, to look at a limit and say, I can go beyond that. We were built to overcome, to achieve, and to find the barriers in our path and break through them. We are, by design, barrier breakers. But there's one barrier that most of us just completely ignore, even though it is the one that defines every other limit in our lives. It is the barrier that was broken through during the very first Holy Week. And today, the Lord isn't just asking us to remember that moment. He is inviting us to finally pass through it ourselves. Hi, I'm Howard, pastor of the Roseville New Church, and welcome to Spiritual Shorts. This Sunday, we celebrate Palm Sunday, the beginning of Holy Week. It is a week of expectation and parades and eventually of deep shadows. But this year, I'm focused on the very end of that week and a specific jarring event that occurred at the exact moment the Lord released His Spirit on the cross. I'm talking about the tearing of the veil. In the temple in Jerusalem, that veil was a physical wall of fabric. It served a singular haunting purpose. It was a boundary. It told the world, this far and no further. The divine presence was behind that curtain. You were out here. It was the ultimate symbol of a religion of distance, the idea that God is separate, unapproachable, and hidden. We often think of the temple as a building in the Middle East, but there is another way of looking at it through the lens of the symbolic language of the Bible. Through that lens, the temple is us. The veil represents the way we have learned to see our own lives divided. We have a spiritual self that we show on Sundays and a natural self for the rest of the week. We feel a gap between who we are and the divine presence we are longing for. And in the scriptures, we see the Lord setting His face like a stone in Isaiah, moving towards a confrontation with this barrier. In Philippians, we read that He did not think of equality with God as something to cling to, but instead emptied Himself out. And that's where the story gets deep. We often hear that the cross was a legal transaction, a payment to satisfy an angry God, but from a deeper spiritual perspective, the cross was the final barrier-breaking event. The Lord didn't stay behind the curtain of divine privilege. He stepped into our human nature, our fears, our temptations, even our feeling of being abandoned by God, as expressed in Psalm 22. He became the curtain, flesh and blood, so that He could tear the barrier of human ego from the inside out. Matthew 27 tells us the curtain was torn from the top to the bottom, and that detail is everything. It means the breakthrough didn't start with us. It started with Him. It wasn't human striving that opened the way to heaven. It was the divine love breaking through the limits of human nature. When that veil tore, it signaled the end of distance religion. It meant the Holy of Holies is no longer a restricted room in a building. It is our own heart. The barrier that kept you feeling separate or not enough, it's been removed. The victory of the Passion is that the divine is no longer in there behind a curtain of rules and rituals. He's out here. He is in our mourning, in our struggles, and in our very breath. So as we prepare for the coming week, I invite you to look at the veils you leave hanging. Is there a veil of shame that makes you feel like you have to hide from the Lord? Is there a veil of resentment that keeps you from seeing the divine in your neighbor? The curtain has been torn. The rocks have split. The way is open. This Palm Sunday, don't just stand in the outer courts waving branches for a king out there. Have the courage to walk through the broken barrier. Let the Lord enter your inner Jerusalem and show you that you were never truly separate from Him. The barrier is broken. Take the Lord's hand as He reaches out to you. God bless you. And thank you for joining me for this episode of Spiritual Shorts.